The Adobe User Group and Rotaract present the Media Marketing Insights Series, a TEDx-style presentation for students of Baker College. This evening's talks center on creativity through cooperation. Benchmark Productions, a business media agency in Muskegon, Michigan, offers 3 views on this concept. Mike Vogas covers team building. Andy Maciejewski reveals methods for developing great ideas. And Eric Hettenbach explains graphic design optimized for satisfying customers and CEOs. Good evening, everyone. I oftentimes am an instructor here, but I also am fortunate in having a business of my own. And in 1985, I started a business that through several mutations has turned into Benchmark Productions. It started off as presentation services when I did slideshows, and then it morphed into business video excellence as I realized technology was changing. And then I changed it from business video excellence into Benchmark Productions. And I'm fortunate to work in a virtual agency, and I'm the project manager, and I invite talented people to be a part of Benchmark Productions. And we're going to share with you this evening some insights that we have had over time in the hopes that our experiences will lend some success to you in the business world and whatever it is that you happen to be going into. And so I would like to encourage you right from the very outset, if you have a question, maybe you can hold it till the Q&A because perhaps I will answer it. But my goal in my brief presentation is going to share with you how creativity can be done through cooperation. Now, one of the people here this evening, Andy Maciejewski, who is going to follow me with the presentation, is now one of the owners of the Revel agency, but he is still a Benchmark partner. But before Revel was started, or before Converge, which is what Revel was in its namesake before Revel, he was a Benchmark partner, and when he was a student at Reese Puffer High School, I mentored him because a teacher called me and said, "Would you be interested in talking to a student about video?" And my inside head said, "Not really." But I talked to the gentleman because Gwen was my stage manager for Showcase, which I directed for 19 out of its 27 years. And I talked to the young man, and he was so motivated that I wound up being a friend and a partner of Andy now for 20 years if it's a day. So he's going to share something with you as well. Another one of my partners is Eric Hettenbach, and I will introduce to you to him in just a moment. But let me share just a bit about what Benchmark Production is. It's a virtual agency, and it is a marketing agency. And one of the things that you may be familiar with is that marketing began with the club. Way back in the very beginning, when people wanted to convince someone that they needed to do something, that's the way they did it. And this may be similar to some of the ideas you've encountered in your marketing classes. And as time went on, people figured out how to convince people to do things in other ways. So if in fact you think that Iron Maiden was heavy metal, it started a long time before that. People were convincing each other that they wanted them to say certain things, if not buy. As time went on, marketing changed, and the method of getting your foot in the door was a way to get people to buy. These days, there are teams of people who help sell things. We have coders, we have writers, we have photographers, as in this team of ne'er-do-wells. If you have a really fine team, you get to call them a dream team. And I have with me this evening a dream team, and I will share with you some of the characteristics that I hope you will look for the people that you work with. Can I see a show of hands? How many of you people are going into marketing? How many of you are entrepreneurial students? And what are you studying, fellows in that row?
Computer sciences.
Aha. And what class are you in this evening that brings you here?
Principles of computer science.
Aha. Because one of the disciplines that we use on a regular basis are people who are familiar with computers in the aspect of not only coding web pages, but helping us repair the computers that we need to do everything we do with the software that we use. Moving on. Benchmark is a virtual agency, and here are the 3 partners who are sharing with you tonight. This is more of a representation of the group of people who are my partners. And Benchmark originated from the gestations I spoke to you about just about 6 months after the planes hit the building in New York and the Pentagon. It was 9/11. And for those of you who are not active in the monetary world, the world shrunk up and commerce stopped. And as a video producer who had been in business for quite a few years, all of my customers stopped spending money, and I was in deep trouble. And so were the other people that I dealt with. And so I had a picnic at my house, and I invited people over, and I asked photographers and coders and graphic designers and people with whom I'd had things to do with over the past X number of years. And I said, we need to do something because we need to capture the business that we wouldn't normally capture because we're independents and we don't offer enough services to bring everyone together for a large project. So we started Benchmark Productions, and I became the principal of it because nobody else would volunteer. And I said, all right, I'll use the name of my business and we'll move forward and we will become partners. What I'd like you to know moving forward is that the quality of the individuals you hire differ from a photographer to a photographer. A professional photographer is not as much as you need to know about the skills involved. There are journalistic photographers and there are studio photographers to begin with. Example. This is a marvelous image made by Fred Reinecke, who was one of my Benchmark partners, and he does a spectacular job with making parts look good. He can also do some fantastic things with posed people in a controlled situation. The ability to make an image such as this one, which was done by another one of my partners, and this particular image was shot for the 100th anniversary of the Muskegon Museum of Art, is quite a different kind of image. This is a journalistic photographer. If you don't already notice it, this photographer was lying on the floor to make this picture. And this amazing point of view with these people taking in this artwork on the wall is characteristic of somebody who is a very talented journalistic photographer. There are also differences with regard to writers. I'm going to share with you some episodes, or some outtakes of videos that I have done over time that require the skills of different kinds of writers. This particular video clip is an industrial video, and the script was put together by myself in conjunction with somebody in sales because they knew what their customers needed to hear. And the way this script is put together is drastically different than the one you're going to hear in just a moment. Would you be kind enough to roll this clip, Simon?
Over the years, we've built a reputation for efficiently delivering products that last longer, go farther, and perform better. We have expertise in pre-treatment and standalone coatings, as well as specialized assembly and masking capabilities, so you can partner with a single reliable source.
So in this particular clip, the services of a graphic designer as well as a video producer and a writer. Then there was the music under, which was purchased either from an individual or production music agency. But that was an industrial piece, and most of the work that I do is involved with industry. Another consideration of Benchmark Productions and its outreach is working with professional service organizations. This next clip gives you an opportunity to witness a piece of marketing that values humanity, and the writer in this particular case is another one of my partners. His name is Clayton Hardiman, and he has been my compadre for at least 25 years. I met him first when we both worked on Showcase in its very first years. He was a writer for the Muskegon Chronicle. He was assigned to the project with me at the Froenthal Theater to write. And I discovered what a marvelous talent he was. Listen to the poetic imagery created by this writer, which is completely different from industrial point of view. If you'd be kind enough to roll it, Simon.
Inside the walls of a Muskegon landmark, over the rumble of downtown traffic, a special kind of symphony plays on. It is a symphony of colors, shapes, textures, and contrasts. It is a fugue, a soundtrack, a story pieced together from artists around the globe. Ultimately, it is the story of us. There is a direct link between art and vision and rarely has that link been established so securely as in the Muskegon Museum of Art.
And there's an example of somebody who has the capability of reaching into somebody's heart and mind with poetic imagery. What I'm very privileged to share with you this evening are some of the questions that were issued by students just like yourself from the marketing department. And as we put this program together, we requested, what would students in the marketing department like to hear from those of us who have experience in the business? And so I've used 4 of those questions as points for me to share information with you. And immediately following these, I'll open it up to any questions you might have. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, I am transparent. So if you want to ask me about money, you want to ask about personalities, you feel free to do that. I always have the opportunity to say, well, maybe not. I have with me this evening the comments from not only Clayton Hardiman, but 4 other students who represent the kinds of qualities that I look for represented in one of the questions asked by a student. The first question that I wanted to deal with is offered here. Would you consider this a fun job or a stressful one? I'm going to ask Clayton Hardiman, my paisan, my wonderful writer friend, to answer this question, but I'm going to use a translation of the word stress. And I'm going to change that word into struggle, because that is his favorite word to relate to what stress is. And this interview with Clayton, of which I've taken just a bit, was part of an interview that he did for the Muskegon Museum of Art project that my class did earlier this year, which is Remember and Rebuild, which was about the 9/11 consideration. But he speaks to what stress or struggle is and how important that is in our lives. And if I can advance this slide, would you please roll that clip of Clayton? Thank you, sir.
I think for most human beings, at least most of the ones that I've talked to, struggle is a scary word. We think of struggle as something to be avoided if possible, and maybe it's just it's a scary word. I think struggle is a good thing. Struggle strengthens us. It informs us. It helps define us. I am who I am because of the struggles that I've had to endure.
Thank you. That man makes my day. Every time I have a chance to read his column, I feel better as a result of it. Another question asked by a student, where is the first place you go to look for people on your team? I am very fortunate because I have an opportunity to hire the people that I see in the world that I believe are the best at what it is that they do. One of the things that I ask my people to do, and that is regularly important in the advertising and marketing field as well as all kinds of business, is networking. And if you are alert and open, you will find people to work with almost everywhere. I brought with me a student. Mark Glass is a 4th-year graphic design student. He's in one of my classes just a few weeks ago. He started a presentation with remarks that relate to networking, risk-taking, and professionalism. All 3 of these things I look for in people that I want to hire. Oh.
So we as designers are taught that networking is an important part of being in the industry. And when we were given this project, and Vogas had briefly discussed with us last class that we'd be doing a video and that we'd have to find a client and basically we'd be filming everything ourselves, my first thought was, oh no, something I'm not comfortable with, and another thing that is just going to be something that is not going to come easy for me. So over Christmas break, I started talking and looking around and kind of researching what I would do my project on. And I found someone that actually took the DVP course here, and someone that owns their own business, and someone that I respected as an entrepreneur and a friend. And her name's Kalena, and she runs her own photography studio in Muskegon. And since she's been through this class and knows what Vogas likes, and she's showed me some of her work, I was like, well, if I went that route, I'd probably make something I can be proud of. And one of the most important things to me is making work that I can be proud of.
And I am so very proud of Mark. he has come so far. Every time he'd get up to present to us in front of a camera, particularly the way he did there, he would die the death of 1,000 cuts. But he consistently continued to improve. His vocalized pauses ultimately disappeared, and he represents courage as well as the other considerations of networking and professionalism. Another question we received from students: how do you choose the individuals for your teams? Well, I have another student who represents enthusiasm, which is the beginning of all good things. Would you please roll this clip on Jessica? Thank you kindly.
And since you can't really exactly explain to everyone clicking on a link on your website to go and explain personally to them what it is you do and why you should be picked for this project, the next best alternatives is to get some video. Do some interviews, get some pictures of work, and let her explain to you why she finds her business so important. And it can be really interesting to see what kind of information you can get from someone who just really wants to be passionate about what they do and share that with others.
Another very important thing about developing a partnership or creativity through cooperation is to know the people you work with well enough to be able to depend on them and know what it is that they're going to do. Here is another student of mine who talks about trust based on experience, and Uncle Nathan Knobloch is going to comment. If you'd roll his clip, please.
But we should remember that there is a real benefit to working with someone you know. There's a level of trust already established. You know going into it that you are going to work well with this person and be able to create a good finished product. I have the benefit in my project this semester to work with people I know.
If you haven't already guessed, one of the things that I value highly, as well as all of my customers, are the ability to communicate well. Eric Hettenbach is my go-to designer and has been for the past 10 years. And I almost said the primary reason. The primary reason is he's such a marvelous designer. But equally as important as being a wonderful designer is his ability to deal with the customer and communicate with them. He asks such wonderful questions. By the time he's done in a question and answer session with a customer, they are absolutely elated, they're smiling, they're glad that we're there, because the questions that he's asked has had them understand what it is they really want to do. Here is another student of mine. Joyce is going to talk about applying communication skills in the job place. If you'd be kind enough to roll her clip. Thank you, Simon.
I've proposed 2 media technologies to do a 5-module video that will not only explain a little bit about the company, but it will also introduce the catalog and the way that the catalog is supposed to be used, how you use it as a tool, and its supporting literature and tools that go along with it, so that our salespeople will be able to take this catalog to the end user and show them how to build their space in a way that isn't overwhelming and that will turn libraries of yesterday into today's media space.